What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, we won. Um, it's okay. It was a good win. I'm happy with the win, but I've got problems. And yeah, it wasn't exactly the most fun to watch. And that's kind of one of the bigger problems. Is the entire second half, and honestly, extra time as well. It was just frustrating to watch from a fan perspective. And a lot of it comes down to Tuchel. like people keep. I remember whenever Sorry was in and then Lampard was in, and we were having problems and issues. People would keep on don't blame the coach. It's not the coach. It's the players that go out there and play. Yes, but also it's the coach's decision to decide who's to play. So that falls on them. And there are some decisions that are game making decisions. Like whenever you've got Conte on and he's running the midfield and you decide to sub him off, that's a game making decision. That's something that can ruin a team, which it did. And we gave up the goal. Same thing that happened against Tottenham, basically. We were controlling the game against Tottenham, and they subbed off Conte at halftime for Bakayoko. And then we gave away a two-goal lead after that. Same thing here. 1-0 lead, easy. A couple of scary moments at the end of the half, but really no issues as far as the game flow. We were still getting the ball forward. We were still controlling the game. They were just occasionally they would foray forward. Is that the right word? They would have a foray forward. I don't know. Anyways, but they would come forward with some speed and hit us on the counter, and they would get a good chance. But most of the time, Conte was there to block out most of them. Once he took Conte off, suddenly we are not in control of the game anymore. Suddenly they are in control of the game. Suddenly we're not creating as many chances. There's another reason for that, which I'll get to later. But, I mean, his subs affected the game in a negative way. So yes, the players that he puts out there, they have to perform, but he's the one deciding who to bring on, who to bring off. And today, terrible decisions. I already talked about Conte coming off. The fact that Kovacic was kept on, even though he was having an awful game today, probably one of his worst as a Chelsea player. The fact that he stayed on and Conte did not, real big problems. And it caused us a lot of issues in the midfield. We couldn't control it anymore because Conte wasn't in there. Christensen on for Zuma. I've got no problem with Christensen, but today, the way Zuma was playing, he was being a fantastic sweeper. He was cleaning up a lot in the back. You bring on Christensen, he's not really that much of a sweeper. He doesn't really have the pace to keep up with the balls getting in behind like Zuma did. So now we've lost a little bit of pace in our back line. And on top of that, he brings off Werner and brings on Mount. Not necessarily a bad thing to bring on Mount, but now you've taken Werner off, which means now we're playing with Havertz as a false nine. And if you've watched any of my reviews of the games last season where he employed Havertz as a false nine, sans the one game against Crystal Palace where Palace didn't defend, every game that he played Havertz as a false nine, we didn't score. I cannot think of one game where Havertz played as a false nine. I mean, okay, I can't think of a game where we scored when Havertz was a false nine. There might have been a game where he switched to Havertz as a false nine after we'd already scored one or two. That doesn't count. I'm saying with Havertz as a false nine, we don't score. We're not creative enough. He's not a striker, so he's not making striker-like runs, which means now we're not creative up front. So guess what? He made all three of those switches at once. The game really, really changed at that point. Like, we were in control. Yes, they had stepped out a little bit. Yes, they had started the second half quickly. We had come out a little sluggish, kind of like the beginning of the first half, but we were growing into it. We were kind of building up that momentum again. It was really starting to kind of push toward our favor. And then he makes those three subs, and I don't know if we created a chance the rest of the half. Like, I don't think we created a chance the rest of the half after that sub. And they created many chances, and they scored and took us to extra time and then eventually to penalties. So, for me, I'm looking at Tuchel thinking, what's the thought process there? And even bringing Kepa on, for the penalties, yes, obviously he makes the save to win it, but you bring on Kepa Balaga, and is Mendy just not... I'm assuming that's a Czech decision, because he's the keeper... Is he the keeper coach? I don't know. Whoever the keeper's coach is must be his decision, and Mendy must not be as good as Kepa at penalties. That's the only thing I can think of, which is shocking to me considering how little Kepa moves his feet. Because honestly, I mean, just watching him in the penalty shootout, he's not really a good penalty keeper either. So if Mendy is worse than him, I mean, that's shocking. But, I mean, honestly, what Kepa relies on is he guesses. He guesses which way to go. And he guessed 3 out of the 8 correctly and saved 2 of those 3. So, that's not necessarily a good outlook for him. So I'm just like, how bad is Mendy at penalties? But anyways, yeah, from Tuchel's point of view, though, I just don't understand those 3 subs. The players he's got coming on, Christensen, Jorginho, Mount, aside from Jorginho, who I'm still kind of up and down with him, I don't really have an issue with those subs. But it's the players he's bringing off that I'm thinking doesn't really make sense in the run of the game. It doesn't really make sense with how the game is flowing right now. This really disrupts our momentum. And it did. And it really hurt us. And as the second half wore on, it was all Villarreal. We hardly got a chance in the second half. In extra time, kind of a little bit back and forth. We kind of sorted it out a little bit to where they weren't getting as many chances. We created a couple in extra time. But it felt like Villarreal should have won that game at the end. And a lot of it comes down to that substitution because we dominated the first half, in my opinion. So, that's my opinion on Tuchel. Talk about individuals. First, in goal, Mendy. For the most part, did well. Nothing he could really do with the goal. Again, his issue is his feet. He had a couple really bad passes here and there. Obviously, the one that nearly led to a goal that he made a fantastic save for. But yeah, I mean, it's an issue he's had last year, and it's something I'm surprised he hasn't really improved upon between last year and this year. I feel like it's something that should have been worked on. But based on a couple games that I've seen him so far this season, it looks like he hasn't really worked on that at all. It feels like he's back to, I'm scared when the ball's at his feet again. In defense, Chalobah, probably the brightest light out of this, a lot of this kind of murky darkness that happened throughout the game. Chalobah, for me, played well. And it's good to see, player coming in, young player. Is he going to be able to cut it? Is he going to get it any time? Based on the performance today, I think he deserves a shot. Now, that being said, Tomori had a couple early flash points, and then suddenly he got loaned out and then sold. So, I'm not putting a ton of hope that we're going to see more of Chalobah. Maybe we will. But, I mean, based on his performance today, he's just as good of an option. Again, I don't think he's the center of a back three. I don't think he's as good there. But being one of those flanking center backs, I think he plays well there. And on the ball, he can improve a little bit more. And I think a lot of that's just down to confidence levels. There are just some times where he doesn't really look confident in his touch. But defensively, I mean, he's putting in good challenges. He's making good clearances. A couple last-ditch challenges as well when we got beat in behind. And he's got good pace, too. So, yeah, I'd love to see more from him. Zuma, like I said, being a sweeper today, I thought he played well. A lot of good challenges in the back and good clearances. The only problem he really had today was just, I think he's a good sweeper. He's not really an organizer. So there were definitely a lot of moments where I felt like we were disorganized, and he should be talking to the 2 players that he's behind and kind of telling them what's going on, but instead it felt like he was sort of pushed up with them, so they had a straight line, and that one ball over the top suddenly beats you because nobody's a little bit deeper. So I just feel like, if he's going to be in the center, I don't mind it as far as his technical ability, but his positioning and his organization needs improvement. Because that's a job that center defender has to do as well. So, and then Rudiger, again, just very solid defensively. A couple wild challenges here and there, but overall did fine. Thought the yellow was stupid because it's one of those, he kicks it. And what's his foot supposed to do after he kicks it? Is he supposed to kick it and instantly put it on the ground? Like, when you kick it, your leg goes forward, and just because the momentum takes him into the guy, suddenly now it's a yellow. And honestly, it was a yellow because the Villarreal players got up in the ref's face, and the ref was like, okay, calm down. I'll give him a yellow, okay? Jeez, don't yell at me like that. I'm sensitive. I was glad Tuchel got in his ear for that one, though. That was a dumb call. Then the wingbacks. Hudson-Odoi, probably his most inconsistent game. And what I mean by that is most of the time his first half is good and his second half is fading. Today, the first half wasn't really overall good, but his second half wasn't really overall disappointing. It was kind of like he popped up with a couple good moments in the first half, but also had some disappointing moments, and then second half same thing. Like he had a couple good moments, but then he also disappointed a little bit. So it was weird. Like I'm most of the time I'm just used to seeing him be fantastic in the first half and just be so good and driving down that line and causing issues. And then the second half, it seems like whether his focus fades or whether his fitness levels are fading, it feels like he drops out of the game. So it was weird to see him like be good and bad throughout the game. It was a different type of performance from him, but overall, it was still good enough, I guess. Still probably one of our more dangerous players as well throughout the game. So definitely, I hope he can put kind of a challenge on James this season because I really felt like James underperformed last season. I felt like he could have given us more. He didn't really push himself. So I would like to see Hudson-Odoi push James to push himself, and really say, hey, I'm challenging you for this spot, so you got to win it. Because if James can improve as well, I mean, that would be fantastic. So I'd like to see a little bit of competition there. Alonso, another performance from him. Again, technically he's a gifted player, but there are just times when I watch him play and I get really frustrated watching him because he's out of position or he's trying to do too much or he, just some weird decisions being made where he feels like he can take it himself and he's got all these options. So I don't know. He's such a... I can't really describe him in one word. He's just a player that occasionally will pop up with something fantastic. But overall, it's kind of frustrating to watch as a fan. And I get frustrated watching him as a player, as somebody who knows, where all these players should be on the field and position wise, unless Tuchel's telling them to come inside. But I can't imagine that because then we have nobody out wide. So unless somebody's not doing their job and getting out wide around him, I feel like it's him that's not staying wide when he should be. So yeah, I don't know. He's such a weird player to have out there because there are times when I watch him play and I'm thinking he's a good player, but then most of the time I'm just yelling at him to give us the width that we need or to get rid of the ball. So yeah, I don't think we really have anybody that's going to challenge Chilwell this season, unfortunately. Alonso, I don't think he's going to be consistent enough. Emerson, I don't think is strong enough. So Chilwell, I feel like, has that spot down. I hope he can push himself because he really stepped up near the end of the season. But throughout the season, he was kind of hit and miss with his performances until Tuchel came in. And then, when Alonso got that lifeline, all of a sudden Chilwell realized he had to win his spot back. And when he did, he looked great. But I'm hoping that he doesn't just sort of stagnate and think, oh, well, I got it now. So we'll see how that goes. In the middle, like I said about Kovacic earlier, probably one of his worst games as a Chelsea player. And he didn't really play well against Tottenham either. He was kind of okay. But today was just bad. Bad touches, bad passes. He was slow. He looked lethargic. I'm just thinking, where's the Kovacic that I know? He's so much more energetic than this. He's so much better on the ball than this. It looked like he couldn't get his feet sorted. And defensively, most of the time, he's not really a defensive player, but most of the time he can at least put in a decent challenge and be willing to put in that challenge. Today he kind of looks scared. There was one moment that I remember so vividly because I was just like, what is happening? It was after Conte had already come off. Jorginho and him were sort of around the area, but it was like neither of them wanted to go to the ball. There's a moment the ball got passed out, and Kovacic is the closest one there, and he doesn't go close it down. Nobody's closing it down. And so the Villarreal player had plenty of time to just take a touch. Where do I want to put it? And then the ball kind of bounces around, and he and Jorginho are both there, and Jorginho is just chasing the ball around this area while Kovacic is just watching it. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? Like, did you watch Bakayoko's performance against Tottenham and think, I can do that? Like, what? I don't know what was happening. It was the most bizarre thing I've seen from Kovacic because he's so much more just energetic and so much more desire-filled than that most of the time. I'm so used to seeing him. He wants to get the ball. He wants to be on it. He wants to make things happen. Today it looked like he didn't want anything to do with it. He's just like, I'll just wait. I'll just wait for you guys to sort things out. If the ball comes to me, fine. It was weird. So hopefully this is a one-time thing. Hopefully he just continues. He just gets better from here because it really can't get much worse, honestly. I guess he could be Bakayoko's level. So it could get worse, but it couldn't get much worse than this. It was pretty poor from him overall. And again, the fact that he wasn't subbed and Conte was really showed you where the second half went. Um, because, I mean, Conte, another 75% performance from him, but you know what? 75% Conte is still one of the best players on the pitch. He was controlling the midfield again. He's doing everything that you expect Conte to do. He's winning balls, he's putting in challenges, he's disrupting the play, he's making things happen for us. Most of the time his challenges end up causing our counterattacks. So, yeah, it was another great performance from him, and I don't think he was even at his best today. I think he still has a little bit more in him because he's still not quite up to full fitness. So, yeah, I can't wait to see him at 100% fitness again, because when he gets to that point, that's when it's just hard to beat us, because you can't get past Conte. And even when you do, you didn't get past Conte. um, so, Jorginho, well, I guess I'll talk about the subs later. Going into the front three, Ziyech, of course, is going to be the big disappointment for this game, just because, coming off with another injury. It seemed pretty innocuous, honestly. Like, I don't know what happened exactly that caused him to hurt his arm, but hopefully it's something that it's in the arm, so he can, just put on a cast. And hopefully it's not like a shoulder thing where he's not able to run because it's his shoulder. But it seemed pretty soft to hurt him that bad. So I don't know what exactly happened. I don't know if, like, it just pulled maybe, and maybe pulled something out of socket or something along those lines. But if it's a dislocated shoulder, not the worst thing, but not as bad as, like, if something is broken. So we'll see what the news about him is. But honestly, his performance until that point was pretty good. Probably, yeah, I would say he's the best of the front three. The fact that he scored kind of puts him over Werner, but he was working hard. He was making stuff happen. Couple bad decisions on the ball again, but again, it's not the decision to be clever in the game against Arsenal, where he decided, instead of just having the shot at a wide open goal, he wants to cut it back. It's decisions where he's got the simple pass, but he's also got the clever pass to the back post. And he's trying stuff like that because that option is on, and he has the ability to do it. And if he gets it there, it's probably going to turn into a goal. But also, that option is there. It's safer. It may not lead to a chance, but it'll at least keep us possession. It's those decisions he tends to be a bit more risky, and that's just the type of player he is. So for me personally, I would prefer to keep it safe and keep the ball moving, because then you make the defense have to work, you make them have to move. Whereas if you just give it away, well, now they're just like, well, thanks. Now we don't have to defend anymore. And especially against this Villarreal team who are looking to just sort of pack it in and sit. Keeping the ball moving, in my opinion, is what we kind of needed. We needed to keep it moving quickly and make them have to shift and adjust, because they were not really having to do that much today because we were playing pretty slow. And a lot of that comes down to the worst of the front three and the second worst player on the field ahead of Kovacic, Havertz. Yeah, just really dropped off. Last game didn't really see much from him against Tottenham, and then you come to this one and really just wasn't up to it. I don't know what was happening. I don't know what's going on with him, but any signs of the player that we saw from last season are not here right now. After he scored that goal against Arsenal, I'm thinking, yeah, he's picking up where he left off. And then we get to Tottenham, and he was just uninvolved. Today, even when he was involved, I didn't want him involved because he was so slow. He was so just, his touches were so slow and long, and it felt like he couldn't do anything. It felt like he wasn't on the same page with anybody. People were making good passes, and he's just not ready for it. So I don't know what was happening. I don't know what's been happening with him these past two games, but something's going on. It's a mental thing, because we know he's a better player than what he's showing. So mentally, I don't know where his head's at, but he's not right now. And today was probably one of his worst performances since some of his earlier performances, because there were a couple early performances where he didn't really look all that great. He looked a little timid and nervous. Today, he just didn't look like a player, and I know he is. So, yeah, he really hurt us. Again, another sub where I'm thinking, you bringing off Timo and leaving him on. He's been one of our worst players on the field. Like, why is he staying on the pitch? But yeah, going to Timo though, another solid performance from him. Again, not getting the goal, and I know that people are going to talk about that, but I think his work rate really helps us. And once he was subbed off, we lost our creative edge up front. because the movement that he has, the ability to create openings that he has, you can't just put somebody else in there and expect them to do the same thing. You need a striker in there to make those runs, and Havertz doesn't, and Timo does. So that's why I will always take somebody in my team like Werner over somebody like, Murata, who occasionally will score goals, but when he's not scoring, he's not playing well. When Timo's not scoring, he's still playing well. He's still giving you something. So, yeah, I thought it was a weird decision to sub him off and not bring on another striker because we need a striker in there. Um, On to the subs. First one, Pulisic came on for Ziyech in the first half. And, eh, again, I still expect more from him. I think he's got the ability to do more, but I feel like he's still playing very restricted. Um, and especially as the second half wore on, before they scored, it felt like a game for him. It felt like a game for what he's normally very good at, which is taking the space and doing something with that space. Because, how many goals has he scored where he's had space to run and he's hurt the other team for it? Today he had that space in the second half before they scored and packed it in again, and he really didn't do anything with it. He just took it a little bit and then eventually kind of slowed down the play, brought the rest of the defense back, and then suddenly now he doesn't have the space to run anymore, and he's lost his chance. So yeah, I don't know. I really feel like from Pulisic, I want to see more. I want to see him take that space more. Kind of like Ziyech, be a little bit more risky because, yeah, if you're not risky, you're playing safe, but also that means you're not really doing much with it. And we need more creativity up front. Again, it's another game where we had all these chances in the first half that we didn't finish, and a lot of that is down to we lack creativity at the moment. We lack a clinical finishing edge. So we need players like Pulisic to start stepping up and doing something about it, creating something. And as long as he's just sort of keeping it safe, keeping the ball moving, knocking it around slowly, we're not really doing much. We're not creating anything back there. And it's making it easy to defend against us. So the other team, all they have to do is just pack it in, wait for their chance, counterattack on us. Especially whenever you take Conte off, it makes it very easy. So, yeah, I don't know. I saw a lot of people, obviously, in the comments hammering Pulisic, which I'm just like, really? He's the one you're hammering? Not Kovacic or Havertz? But, he is a player that comes under a lot of criticism because of the fact that he is supposed to be one of the better players at our team right now. He was supposed to sort of come in and fill the Hazard role. And while he's not Hazard, he's not going to fill that Hazard role, I do feel like he could contribute more, and he's not. So I do think he is going to be suffering under that pressure for a little while. And then those three subs, like I talked about, besides Jorginho, I don't really have an issue with Christensen and Mount coming on. And all three of them, including Dave, I'll throw him in there as well. All four of them, I feel like you could tell still early in the preseason for them, because they all came back a little bit later than everybody else because they had longer international breaks. And so, there's going to be those touches, Mount especially because he was getting on the ball more. You could see his touch is still not quite back yet. He's still kind of getting his feet together after taking a little bit of a break. So there were those moments that popped up in all of the games of the players that, haven't really seen in preseason yet. But as far as performance overall goes, Mount looked okay, very energetic. Obviously, that clinical edge at the end will hopefully come as he gets back into full fitness. But the main thing from him was just his movement. I feel like really provided a lot. Because there were, I think the best example I can bring for that is the moment where Azpilicueta and Chalobah have the ball in the corner, and they're knocking it back and forth because nobody's helping. Mount has to come all the way from across the field, even though there are tons of players close enough to go help them out. And he has to be the one to come over and help because he's the only one moving. And that's really what hurt us today was a lack of movement up front after he took Timo off. So Mount had to be that one that was going to make those runs. So I thought he did that well enough. Again, hopefully the touch will come back to him. His clinical finishing touch will come back as well. But overall, his work rate, I think, was probably the best out of the subs that came on. Christensen had some good moments, but also got caught out a couple times as well. Just a couple times where it feels like he should be a bit better at reading the situations because he's gotten that experience in the middle of the back three now. I want to see a bit more reading the situation and trying to organize it, And I've talked about it before, I know, but Christensen has had that ability for a while. He's had that ability to read the situations and organize, but he's just not really doing it because he's shown he can be a very intelligent player, but he doesn't do it very often. Because I mean, how many times has he read the situation and tried to get there, but he's too slow, and that's what's caught him out. So again, another game where it feels like he's not really reacting to the situation quick enough, even though he sees it, and he's a little slow to get there, and all of a sudden it's too easy to pass around him. So hopefully, I don't know. I'm hoping with age he'll start to mature. He'll start to really find his footing and hopefully build a career for himself. Because right now he's still just kind of there. He's not really one of the star defenders at our team, and he could be. So I'd like to see a bit more from him there. Jorginho, not as bad as Kovacic, which it's not very often that I say that. But yeah, just, still that type of player that I worry about having him in the defensive mid. I worry about his speed. I worry about the change of pace. As fast as some teams break out against us, he's a player that hurts you. On the ball, he's also not fantastic. He's okay. He can keep the ball moving, but he's not really, you think about your Fabregas. You think about, hell, Gilmore. You think about Gilmore in there, and he's just not a player that keeps the ball moving quick enough for how we need to be playing. We need to be playing quicker. We need to be moving the ball more because teams pack it in, and it's very easy to play and pack it in and defend against a team that moves the ball as slow as we often do. So I don't know. I still don't think he's going to cut it. I know people talk about him like he's a world-class player. I know he's had games where he's looked world-class, but he doesn't do it consistently enough. And I think this was another game where he came on and didn't really change much. Kind of brought us down. And obviously, coming on for Conte, that's always going to bring us down anyway. But I think that he could give us more if he were playing alongside somebody else that brings that game out in him. And unfortunately, I don't want to have a player at my club that's like, well, if he's playing with somebody that's better, he looks good. Because, I don't know, it's just not good enough, in my opinion. So, take from that what you will. And then Dave came on and just provided a little bit more defensive stability because Hudson-Odoi is not really a defender. So you bring on Dave, and he's a bit more defensive player on the right side. And he's just, he's a hard worker, so he's a player that's always going to give you 100%, even if he's not technically that gifted. But defensively, he's always been very solid. He's always put in a good challenge and really, I guess, given us more solidity on the right side. So, but yeah, overall, great to get the win. Happy for the win. Disappointed with the performance, though, and disappointed with Tuchel and his decisions. Hopefully it changes. Because I feel like you've got the Premier League right around the corner. First game coming up on the weekend against Palace, who, unless they come out and defend like they normally do, it's going to be a difficult game. They're a team that love to counter with the pace that they have. So we're going to be facing another team that's going to sit back, defend, and then hit us quickly. And based on what I saw today, we're still not ready for that. We're still not ready to beat that. And I know Lukaku looks like it's a done deal, but is he going to be the answer for breaking down a defense that's packing it in? And if Tuchel is going to keep subbing out Conte for whatever reason, I know against Tottenham it's more about you're just subbing him off because it's preseason, you're trying to get other guys time. But subbing him out in a cup final, basically, that's just a weird and dumb decision for me. And if you're going to do that in another game, it's going to hurt us in another game. So the fact that he did that at all today is kind of making me question his decision-making. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But at least we got the win. So, there's that. Now I need to go take a nap because the game wore me out. Whenever I'm this nervous watching, it just... exhausted afterwards. Felt like I went and played. Probably because, I jumped like twice and I'm out of shape. So those two jumps took a lot out of me. Anyways, that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe, future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.